And here comes the role of peace. Because if you get to know yourself, you would realize you are the coolest that there is on the face of this earth. Because knowing yourself is the coolest thing you can do. It was challenged by Socrates a long time ago. This was his advice: know thyself.
Global Peace Ambassador and New York Times best-selling author Prem Rawat, who is in Kuala Lumpur this October, meets up with some members of the local media. In a series of interviews, he speaks to former editor-in-chief of Malaysian National News Agency, Datu Yong Soo Hyong, radio host and vice president of the Malaysian Voice Guild, Ananda Rajaram, and Weekly Echo associate editor, Melissa Duis. The following are their conversations. Good afternoon, Mr. Prem Rawat. It's so lovely to see you again.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here.
So how was the lockdown? It's been 2-3 years for some people. I mean, did that force you to change anything?
Yeah, it actually forced me to change a lot of things. When it first started, I was like, okay, it just started. I didn't really know what to think of it. But then I realized that there was a lot of people who needed a lot of encouragement. This was new to them, and they really didn't know how to face off into this situation. And being all locked up, being alone, was not as easy as one would have thought. So I started making some videos, and I basically became a YouTuber too. So started putting out videos, and that really helped a lot of people. And then I decided, okay, that's enough. I need to go. So I did everything that I could and could go to certain countries and certain places, making sure that all the protocols for the COVID-19 were all in place. And started visiting and seeing people, and it was very different because everybody had to have 6 feet of distance and this and that and masks and so on. But it happened, and at once you see the power of human beings faced against something, and also you see the disunity of human beings, of how it can prolong something that didn't need to go on.
So with all that quietness, do you think you had to readapt the concept of peace?
No, that has nothing to do with peace. Even though maybe outside in the world there wasn't traffic jams anymore, and the world became a quiet place, but being in a quiet place is not peace. Peace is about what you feel inside of you, because you could be in the most wonderful, wonderful place up in the mountains. There's no traffic, there's no nothing, but up here there's too much traffic, and it's just going on and on and on and on. And unless there is peace that you feel, which that is the peace that is within you, then trying to artificially create peace will never work. It's like you are hungry. Hunger comes from within you, and that feeling of being satisfied also is going to come from within you. But you need to eat food. You cannot eat pretend food. You cannot surround yourself with pictures of food. You cannot go and stand next to a restaurant and smell the aromas. That's not going to satisfy you. If anything, that's going to make you even more hungry. And so we do this. We think that, if I just go and park myself next to a restaurant, I will be full because I will be smelling all this food. That's not the case. You really have to feel it inside of you.
So which brings me to the next question, the knowledge. That is what you call your practice of peace. In their quest for peace, people have done a lot of things. Meditation, live in solitude. How is the knowledge different from the rest?
Because this knowledge is not a knowledge of something, but it is the knowledge of the self. It's knowing yourself. This is what Socrates had said, know thyself. This is making that come true. This is not in terms of personality. This is not in terms of like and dislike. This is not saying, oh yeah, I love the color purple, but I hate the color green. I mean, this is not knowing yourself. That's not what it's about. It's knowing who you are. That divinity that is in you, as it is in this entire universe. You are part of it. And this is what I mean by knowing yourself. So it is really the knowledge of the self.
So now, if I may, since you mentioned that divinity, something actually came across my mind. I was very little then. I was attending religious class, and then they were talking about heaven. My religious teacher was saying, oh, in heaven, everything's going to be eternal, no pain, no feeling. And then one of my classmates said, oh, there goes my juicy steak. So I don't know if you can relate to it, but perhaps some people might view peace as something really boring, very dull, not being in touch with their humanity. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, this is a multifaceted question.
Right.
So let's just begin from top down. And one thing that is obvious, peace is not boring. Peace is dynamic. Because it is all of a sudden putting you in touch with this most amazing part of you that is dynamic, that is not boring, that is not static, because you are ever changing. When you realize that it is infinite that you are a part of. Okay, so now infinite is a very big word.
Right.
And divine is a very big word. Are they real or are they fake? Are they imagined or are they just a little thing that we like to talk about? Now, if I describe to you a wonderful place, and I was just there in Australia, and it's shocking because it's one, there's so many trees there. Morning, you are woken up not by traffic jam, not by horns, but by birds. All night long, you hear the owls. In the morning, the birds are just incredible. You wake up, you can go for a walk, and you will experience rain, you will experience sunshine one day, and then you will experience, I mean, everything is just dynamic. Everything is just changing and changing and changing and changing. You say to me, do I have to believe you? And I can tell you, you don't. I can take you there. It's there. I can take you there. And if I take you there, you can experience it firsthand for yourself. So it's not just that we are sitting there and talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, generation after generation after generation after generation after generation, we have been talking about this place called heaven. Well, why are you talking about it? If it's there, take me there. Show it to me. Oh, but you can only get there after you die.
But you're saying something else.
So here comes the juicy steak.
Right, juicy steak, exactly, yes.
Here comes the juicy steak. It is the mouth that experiences that, whether it's a juicy steak or it's a wonderful dal or it's masala dosa,
Right.
Whatever it is, or it is a, incredible grilled cheese sandwich. But if I don't have my mouth, what good is it? The thing that makes me experience hot and cold will remain here. So if it's a perfect 72 degrees, what good is it to me? It is easy to talk about heaven because nobody will ever challenge you on it. It is easy to talk about hell because nobody will say, okay, show it to me. Take me there. If it's there, take me there. Nobody has come back and said, oh yeah, by the way, okay.
Right.
Nobody. Now, but you would think there would be, of all the people that have been on the face of this earth, there would have been one person who would have the decency to say, I better go tell those poor folk down there, that it is like that. No, they look for a shred of evidence. And you know that's no evidence. Conspiracy theorists have better explanations.
Right.
You know, I was looking at this one show one time and they were talking about the flat earth. And you can see the people who were talking about the flat earth, they know it's not flat. But they like to talk about it that way. And they've got this smirky smile on their face. But the thing is, we can talk about it. We can say, oh, peace is boring. This is this way. This is this way. No, I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to experience it for yourself. That is the biggest difference between me talking about the divinity and anybody else talking about the divinity. This is the difference between me talking about the heaven and anybody else talking about the heaven. And I say, yes, there is a heaven. And it is here. It is now. And it is within you. And you can experience it. And yes, there is a hell. And what is hell? If you're not in heaven, guess where you are? You're
In hell, right. So with the youth today, we have the internet, which seems to dictate our pace of life. Everything's rushed. But it seems like the youth have reverted to a way of living where they want to attain a more organic, natural way of living. First it was minimalism, and then came the revival of the slow movement. So it's all about quality of life. But from my observation, I feel like they're missing something very fundamental here, which is peace. Only if they would take care of peace first, everything would fall into place. So what do you think? I mean, how does peace actually play a role in all this?
Very important and a very good question. And let me begin by saying this. So you have these different waves that trend on internet. Slow pace, fast pace, this pace, that pace. I have a very simple question. Do we follow these trends to be cool? Or do we follow these trends because they're really real? Long time ago, there was this lady in public relations, advertising field, and a few people came to her, and their problem that she had to solve for them is they wanted to sell water. There was a time, and a lot of people may not relate to this, but there was a time where water was not sold. You just drank water that came out of your tap. But they went to this lady and they said, we want to sell water. Well, how do you sell something that is free? This was her challenge. She came up with a solution. In her own words, she sold not the water, but the bottle. And it was cool to drink out of the bottle. So you saw actors with bottles up like this, drinking water, which was a cool thing to do. Do we follow these trends because they're cool? What I mentioned in my book is the FOMO, fear of missing out. So we follow these things? Of course we do. Because we don't want to be the uncool person.
Right.
And here comes the role of peace. Because if you get to know yourself, you would realize you are the coolest that there is on the face of this earth. Because knowing yourself is the coolest thing you can do. It was challenged by Socrates a long time ago. This was his advice. Know thyself. And today, 2000 22, same exact advice. Know thyself.
Yes, we all learn from history.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've ever thought of peace this way, but I come from a small place in East Malaysia. It's called Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. Our culture, I'm a Kadazan Dusun. We practice this thing called Sogit. When you translate it, Sogit means cold or cool. So the idea behind it is just whenever something erupts negatively, you cool things down. You break bread, you make peace, just by the wrong party getting compensated by whoever has inflicted the injury. But the problem our youth have with it is that we feel like it's a way to sweep things under the rug. Because basically what happens, I hope you don't mind if I take my time in explaining this.
Sure.
So for example, we use Sogit for basically everything, from theft to even murder. So for example, even sexual abuse and all that. So let's say a girl has been sexually wronged. So what happens is the family of that boy will just have to give her family maybe a chicken or buffalo, cut them up, slaughter, and they feast together and everything is, they move on. So my question here is, how do you juggle between appearance, keeping up appearances, keeping the peace, and actually forgiving? Is peace about letting go when people get away with murder?
No, absolutely not. That's not what forgiveness is all about. Forgiveness is not about letting people hurt other people. What is fundamentally wrong is fundamentally wrong, and it will always be wrong. And you cannot try to dress it up by putting the crown of peace on it and say, for the sake of peace, let's just forget about this. No. Forgiveness is about you not letting that situation continue to hurt you. And you cut yourself off and move forward. You move forward. But that doesn't fix the problem. We have an issue in society. We do not try to fix the problems. We try to fix the consequences. And until we actually look at why are people hurting people, it's not the right thing to do. It is not the good thing to do. And how can any society's fabric not come undone if people don't adhere to basic understanding of not to hurt each other? So we do nothing to do that, but what we do is create a system by which everything will be okay. It's like if you're speeding.
Right.
Why were you speeding? This needs to be addressed. No, we don't address that. We just give you a ticket. We give you a fine and you pay the fine and everything is fine.
Right.
Fine, right? Fine is
Yeah.
fine.
Correct.
No. Why were you speeding? Because one day you will be speeding and you may kill yourself and there'll be nobody to give you a ticket. Is the
Exactly.
ticket the solution? Is punishment the solution? The solution is to try to stop these things from happening. Women have been underlooked in society. Are they underlooked today? Here's the question. Are they looked down upon today? It's better, but they still are.
Yes.
They don't make the same salaries as men. Why not? When they work hard. You may have a chef at a restaurant, at a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and when he comes home, what does he eat? What his wife has cooked him. When in a society you have this fraction going on, this absolutely fractured society, this is what's going to happen. People are going to look down upon you. We look down upon people who are maybe of not the same caliber. It should never be that. Every human being should be looked as a human being. we don't respect ourselves, it is impossible for us to respect anyone else. That's the fix. The fix isn't to dress it up and say everything is okay. A person dies, don't worry, I'll give him a new suit. What is that going to do for him? Nothing. We need to wake up in our world and grab these problems, not try to just come up with little ideas like, oh, I think we can fix it this way. Let's have dinner together. If people do that, that's not the solution. The solution is not to do it in the first place.
Right. Do you talk about this in your book?
No, I don't talk about this in my book, but I do talk about this. Is my opinion. This is absolutely what I understand this to be the case. Because when the problem is addressed, then, and this is one thing that, I saw the Food for People program that I have, because we started giving these families one-time food. So at the peak of it, it was like 300 kids were coming and one-time food. But the difference that one-time food made, their health got better. They were finally graduating and going on to colleges for the first time, in that area that had ever happened. Crime went down because the families were able to add up a little bit of the money that they would have spent on the food for that child. One-time food that can do that.
Right. So my last question is, if you had to come up with a one-liner for a PSA on how peace fixes everything, how would that go?
Peace isn't going to fix everything. We are.
Right.
I believe in human beings fixing it. But to become a human being, a true human being, a real human being, you need peace in your life.
Very well said. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for myself and Weekly Echo. Thank you very much.
Yes, and I'm going to be speaking in Kuala Lumpur here in October 19th.
Right.
And if you want to find out anything more about it, it's hearyourselfbook.com.
Right. I will definitely be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.